Today we're going to look closer at the EQ portion of a custom voiceover processing chain. I'm Lenny B, voiceover audio engineer. Let's make your voice sound better. We're looking at a submission from a voiceover talent from Tucson, Arizona. The Sennheiser MK416 is the microphone he uses. Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 is the interface, and he records into Logic Pro. He writes, "Hey Lenny, just stumbled across your channel and I love what you're doing by offering these samples and techniques. I was intrigued to see how you would EQ this sample so I could see if I'm on the same page as you." Now, since he's asking specifically about EQ, I want to look a little bit closer at the EQing that I'm doing for this processing chain so he can kind of compare and see what he's doing and see what I'm doing and see which sound he likes better, really comes out the best. When you're manipulating and sculpting audio, it's art, The processing that I'm doing sounds good to me and to my ears, but maybe he wants to change a little bit of something different, and it's subjective, I want to tell you something important before I show you what I've done with the EQ here. I always say, you hear me say, send me your home studio recording and I'll process your voiceover like we do in the videos. If I was on the other side of this video watching, I would definitely be telling myself, oh, my voice isn't good enough, or maybe after I practice for a while, I'm not going to send it to Lenny because I don't like the way that it sounds and I don't want everybody to hear it yet, whatever it is. But don't let that stop you, especially if you love the idea of voiceovers and recording voiceovers. All creative people, this is important, all creative people have that little voice inside their head that we're constantly fighting with, telling us that we're not ready yet, or we're not good enough, or no one's going to like it. Now, what I'm saying is, I totally understand that. Be bold and follow your passion, and don't let anything stop you. What I want you to know is that I'm on your team, and I'm not going to be critical. I understand well that we're all just on a different stage of the learning path. And I was once new to all this stuff, and looking at all these switches and knobs and adjustments, and it was all really confusing. But I asked, and I tried, and I failed, and I learned, and I got better, and I tried again. So if you want to improve your craft, and what you're doing is voiceover or recording your voice for whatever it is, and you want to get better, and you want to get a better sound, send me your voiceover, and I promise you're going to learn something. You could stay anonymous if you want. There's a link in the description to follow, and I would just want you to know that I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders. I love talking about all this stuff and compression and EQ. Honestly, if I try to have an in-depth discussion about compression and EQ with my wife again, she's going to leave me. No, she'll roll her eyes, but she won't leave me. I'm going to work this a little bit differently today. I've created a custom preset here. We'll hear what the submission sounds like unprocessed, and then I'm going to play the whole thing here, and then we're going to look deeper at the EQ.
Come taste the love that goes into our delicious food. We've changed the taco game. Innovative street food, delicious and unique. Dedicated to combining traditional recipes with SoCal flavor to make a menu full of very unique tacos. Enjoy Taco Tuesdays with $3 house favorites, great food, and good vibes. On the first of every month, we introduce a new delicious taco creation. For example, this month, it's the Lean Green.
What I want you to notice is that, I have the VU meters here because this is the level going into all the processing plugins, and this is the level coming out. So I have this on the top of the chain, and this is on the bottom of the chain, and the effects are in between here. So really, this is all these effects are happening, and then I get to measure the level. The reason why is, it's easy to put on compression and EQ and put on some saturation, and then what happens is, you add all this stuff, and it actually starts increasing the volume. And sometimes an increased volume can be perceived as just sounding better, and you don't want that. That's one reason. The other reason is, you get a different effect and a different overall sound if you're not hitting the sweet spot of the plugins, and you have to keep the levels in the right place. And it's kind of an in-depth thing, but it's called gain staging, and it's something that's pretty important. But you'll notice, if you rewind the video and go back, you'll notice that the level going in and the level coming out is unprocessed, and processed is the same. Similar. It can't be exactly the same because we're changing the attack and release of some of this stuff, but you'll notice it's pretty similar. The dynamic range is a little bit different, so this one's not bouncing around as much as after the processing. But I just want you to know why I always have these up, because the meters really help drive the decisions that I'm making I should tell you that the order I'm going in is I have the saturation. That's the first thing that I'm doing after this first VU meter. Then I'm going into the fixing EQ. This is where I fix some of the over-accentuated frequencies that I'm hearing. Then I go into the Scheps Omni Channel, which adds a little more saturation. I've got my gate expander, de-esser, a little more EQ, but this is sweetening EQ. This is what I'm doing to accentuate the pleasing parts of the voice that I'm not hearing enough, and I want to have them a little bit higher. But I'm not fixing anything. This is actually just adding the stuff that I want to accentuate. A compressor, the first opto compressor, and then I'm going into the DBX style compressor here for his voice, which is a Logic stock plugin. And Logic has all these different flavors of compressor, so I'm using the DBX style compressor. And this is just an overall smoothing out of the dynamic range at the end of the chain here. Actually, adding a little bit more distortion and saturation here. And you can do that in the Logic compressors as well, because that's what you could do in the original hardware units, and that's what these are modeled after. So if some of that stuff is really confusing, don't worry. I try to speak to all levels of producers at this point. So some people will understand that, and some people won't yet, but don't worry about that. What we really want to focus on today is just the EQ stuff that I'm doing. So let's we'll look again at the EQ. We're going to toggle on and off the fixing EQ that I'm doing, and I want to explain what I'm listening for and what I'm doing and how I've used this first EQ. So let's hear the voice again.
Come taste the love that goes into our delicious food. We've changed the taco game. Innovative street food, delicious and unique. Dedicated to combining traditional recipes with SoCal flavor to make a menu full of...
First, you should know that it's a very small change, and you have to know what to listen for. And also, when you're only listening to it with the EQ, it's not as apparent, because when you add the compression and the other effects, I have two compressors going after this, that amplifies these changes. So you really have to, it's really ear training, and it's experience. Let's do it again, and I want to tell you what to listen for. Forget about anything in the high range. Just kind of shut your brain off, and in the low range, don't listen. I mean, this is really what we're hearing here. This is the part of the voice that is the tone and the chest sound. It's not the low rumble, but this is kind of the throaty stuff. This is the frequencies that happen in the chest, in the low portion of the voice. This is more of the nasally sounds, and this is the sibilants and the high S's and T's, and this stuff is the real low rumble that not all of us have. This is the real low part. This is the tone. This is the major tone of the voice. So listen for that range of the voice when I play this back, and now I'll toggle it on and off again, because what I was hearing, and the reason why I went to EQ this stuff, is what I was hearing is there was certain frequencies that were too loud, and I've used this. As you could see, these are the peaks and where those frequencies are, and I've dropped them down. So let's toggle this on and off again.
Come taste the love that...
Listen for that range.
Come taste the love that goes into our delicious food. We've changed the taco game. Innovative street food, delicious and unique. Dedicated to combining...
And we're working with ratios here. So what happens is when I lower these mid-tone, chesty parts of the voice, the other parts become more apparent. And what we're doing is we're evening out this frequency. I'm manipulating, I'm sculpting, I'm pushing down the mid parts so the nasally parts and the lower bass parts are more apparent. And that really is accentuated when you add compression, because it smashes everything together. It raises the lower volumes and it tamps down the higher volumes and makes the dynamic range more consistent. Now, again, you don't have to really remember all this stuff, but I want to explain, and we'll go piece by piece. And it's a collective kind of an idea when you keep watching the videos and you take one example after the other. Eventually it starts adding up and making sense, and you can ask questions as well. So that's what I did in the first EQ, is the fixing. And then in the second EQ, what I've done, that's the Scheps channel here, I have raised the very high frequencies. That's 8,000 and up. You see, this is a shelf. So the frequencies, I've raised them 8 dB. So that's the frequencies here. That would be similar to doing something like this 8 dB. That's what that would look like on this EQ, but I'm using the other one because I like the way the other one sounds for the highs. So that's what that EQ is doing here. And then I've got a little bit of a mid bump, but this is more of a wide Q. It's not a surgical fix for a specific small frequency range. This is the 1300 range here. So if I were to look at that, a 1300 range, let's put it in the 1300 range, 13, and we'll raise it up a little bit. That's what this would look like. This is what it would look like on that other EQ. I'm bumping up this mid, so it's higher than this stuff. So it's really kind of right here, and amplifying that nasal part again, evening out the frequencies from what I'm hearing. And those over-accentuated frequencies that are in his voice are they're a factor of his microphone, his voice itself, and the room that he's recording in. And every single room, every mic, every person's voice is different. So there's no numbers that'll work. That's why presets don't do the best job. They'll get you halfway there, but everybody's voice is different. Every room is different. So you really have to understand EQ, train your ear, know what to listen for, and then kind of make the adjustments. If you're looking to improve your voice sound, you could find voiceover tips and techniques. They're free on my website, lennyb.com. And I also sell training courses. There's an EQ course that really explains everything here. And it's for beginners and for an intermediate level person. Maybe you're kind of familiar with EQ, but you want to really understand the intricacies, or if you're just brand new to the whole idea, that really explains everything. It's a great course. I'm very proud of it, and it's pretty popular, which is awesome. And it's on my website, lennyb.com, and I also have information about this custom processing service. You can submit your voice and get all the information there. Your voiceover sound should be inspiring you to do more and record more. You should love the way your voice sounds, and if it's not happening, I could show you how to fix it. Let's make your voice sound better. Thanks for watching.